What you're looking at here is a Raspberry Pi running a preview version of Windows 11. Yep, the very same version of Windows Microsoft announced back on June the 24th. Don't expect much. As I said before, it's just a 1.5 gigahertz Cortex A75 ARM CPU. Having that said, doing screen capturing isn't an option. As well, as I said before, we are running this on a Raspberry Pi, but I am not sure where it's still busy. And for the storage, I have an old external hard disk drive, a mechanical one, which of course is the biggest bottleneck in the system and hampers the performance pretty much too much, shall we say. Nevertheless, it works. Excuse me for that cable. It's the cable that connects my phone with the Raspberry Pi as well. That is because Windows 11, even I've done this with the Windows on the Raspberry Imager. I do have to point out that that internal onboard Wi-Fi is not supported. You require a dongle or using a phone and connect it over the USB. Select charge only, and then you can switch on the USB tethering. But look at that, we are starting to benchmark. As far as that a bench may be called that, but yeah, like I said, it's sluggish. But yep, you can see it. It's pretty small stuff going on here, but the screen is clear enough to see what's all about. As you can see, we're running a multi-core test. It says Windows 10. Oddly enough. And it also announces it as a virtual CPU, which is odd as well. Let's see if we have just enough power to bring up Task Manager here. I have pinned Task Manager on the taskbar here. Very simple, by searching for Task Manager in this window up here. And yes, as you can see, it floats. Well, oddly enough, it's in Dutch, of course, I know. But that's not the thing up here. Now, let's go to performance. And yeah, you can see it is running 100%. And the official name of the CPU is reported here. It's a BCM 2711. And for the military code enthusiasts listening along, it's Bingo Charlie Mike 2711. Or let's say an ARM Cortex A72. I meant a 75, but okay. So that's pretty much for the CPU. Memory installed. I ordered a 4 gig Raspberry Pi 4B, but it turns out to be an 8 gig model here for the price of a 4 gig model. Lucky me. Now come on, focus. Thank you very much. So as we see, the CPU is literally being pushed to the limit here in order to paint something up there. As you can see, it isn't going very fast. Well, I'm not sure whether this has been done before already with Windows 11. Remember, it's still a preview version, and remember as well, since this Cinebench program is actually running, or has been designed solely alone for a desktop CPU, say an AMD Ryzen or an Intel Core i, what have ya, Windows 11 for Intel chips is only designed to be supported from Coffee Lake, whereas the Zen 2000 series from AMD, therefore named the Zen 2 lineup, is supported by Windows 11, but oddly enough it does run on a Raspberry Pi, not fast as it goes through a virtualization layer here, which of course bottlenecks it even more. But despite all of the shortcomings here, we are actually running a benchmark on the Raspberry Pi 4B. Who guessed that? And that on Windows 11. You don't believe me? Well, the taskbar alone should give you enough information to judge for yourself whether this is Windows 11 or not. So you want to go even further? Alright, I hear ya. Let's go to settings here. And let's see, info here. I'm sorry that the language is all in Dutch, but fair enough. Okay, the name I gave it myself, that's Raspberry Pi 4B. Windows specifications. Edition, Windows 11 Home. See? Got it right here. Version 21H2. This number is important because the vinyl version will get this version number as well, which is the Sun Valley update. That will come during fall or winter, depending. But nevertheless, here it is. Your evidence that I am actually running Windows 11 on the Raspberry Pi. How cool is that? So now let's give it a checkup for the benchmarking. As you can see, it is slow. Yep, very slow. Very slow indeed. It's just like these snails breaking for the corner. That type of speed. But as I said before, it's an ARM CPU. It's designed for energy efficiency rather than speed. So speed isn't something you'd expect from a single board computer like this. But the fact that it runs at all over a x64 virtualization layer here before it actually is capable of communicating with the CPU, as the program Cinebench is not designed for an ARM CPU. But you saw that I'm running the damn thing here. You see, it is doing a benchmark. Well, this would certainly take some time. Well, if this is correct, it would still last about 3.5 minutes, more or less. We'll see what comes out. But prepare yourselves to laugh your ass off. But nevertheless, as you can see, it is doing something. Oh, poor beastie. I'm curious, is it running hot? Of course it is not running hot. I use active cooling here. Yeah, you can technically consider this an all-in-one system, but since that is the hard drive, it isn't an all-in-one. If it were running on a 128 gig SD card, which is possible, by the way, then it is an all-in-one system. But since I'm using a USB device to boot from, which is possible, you only need to upgrade your boot manager and your bootstrapper. You can find the tutorials online though. Almost already hitting the 10-minute mark. Still busy, still crawling forward on 4 cores. Is it? Well, of course it is. 1, 2, 3, and here is number 4. There you see. But this is also a so-called heavy benchmarking program. Remember the R15? That was a pretty light program though, but I'm using the latest version to do the benchmarking here on an ARM CPU with a benchmarking program that is not and never intended to be used on an ARM CPU based system at all. And still, it is working. Imagine that. It all works out of the box. If you got the know-how and want to go through the hassle installing Windows on ARM for Raspberry Pi with the tutorial available on the internet. It only was found out recently though, but the one who found it out was right. You can run Windows 11 on a Raspberry Pi 4B. You must have at least 4 gig of random access memory, otherwise it just won't boot. And if you are in the boot manager after installation is complete, don't forget to disable the 3 gig RAM limiter, otherwise it wouldn't boot too. And make sure you select the right resolution. Oh, and don't forget make sure you got a Wi-Fi dongle on a Ethernet cable, because the internal Wi-Fi just does not work. There is no driver for that. Yet. But if somebody wants to pick up the challenge to make a driver for the internal Wi-Fi, be my guest. It would be highly appreciated. Because I'm curious whether that damn thing would even work. But how much time we have left? Oh, the counter's already hit 0 and the damn thing is still going. Oh, yeah, right. Now let's see what we got. Hold it right here. Hold your horses. Well, didn't come up with a score. Well, but like I said, don't expect too much. But nevertheless, we can benchmark the thing. So we do have some results actually. To the question, is it fast? Well, no, it isn't. In fact, it is slow. Can we benchmark it using normal software designed for PC, either a laptop? Yes, we can. Using a 64-bit virtualization layer, which translates the instruction sets for the CPU though. That said, well then, how is YouTube doing? Well, if you want to take the time to load the web browser, in this case I always use Google Chrome. It's just my favorite. Personal preference. Think of it well, as you wish. That doesn't care me. Right. We are still waiting. Meanwhile, the hard drive here is crunching away. Oh, it still sounds healthy though. It's my oldest hard drive I have, which is, well, could it be 12 years old already? Nevertheless, it still works and still sounds healthy. So, that. Oh, and one other thing that I wished actually would work. What I have here for a screen is the actual Raspberry Pi touchscreen. But as you can see, yeah, that does not work in Windows. Well, any other specific Linux distribution out of the box supports that screen, but not Windows 11. Probably Windows doesn't support it at all. I'm sorry for the big stains here. Nevertheless. Right, we have opened the web browser, as you can see here, finally. And the hard drive is already starting to calm down a bit. So that means we should be able to go to YouTube to see how your experience would be if you would do the same thing as I do and run it on a Raspberry Pi 4B, which would set you back about $55. Yep, and then you got a computer that actually runs Windows 11. Well, but you'll have to be patient though. Really, you have to be patient. So then, shall we do a fun search here? I will give in Windows 11 on a Raspberry Pi. Hit search. See how many videos are out there already. Alright. And a 2.3 gigahertz overclock. Wouldn't recommend that. If you would set the overclock, probably wouldn't boot at all. But as you can see here from EDA Prime, Tech Time has still something, and well, Linus has also something to say. And of course, they will go up in the all things considered stuff. But as you can see, it is done before. So this is not a tutorial on how to install Windows 11 on the Raspberry Pi 4, but rather to see, can we actually benchmark it? So what I'm going to do is type in cinebench to see if someone already had tried it. Early look. No joke. Yeah, right. Well, they have done it with Windows 10, but they have not, as far as I can see it, they haven't done it with Cinebench r23. So we are the first doing a Cinebench r23 ish thing. So there you have it, folks. Windows 11 on the Raspberry Pi 4B Plus, and I have shown you that it is possible to use Cinebench r23 to benchmark the thing. Don't expect blazingly fast performance. In fact, expect a slow system where you have to have patience in order to operate it at all. Regardless, is it something that you should try? Well, if you are into Windows and definitely want to see Windows 11 but don't want to screw up your own PC or laptop, definitely get a Raspberry Pi 4B with minimum of 4 gigs random access memory, at least 64 gigabytes of storage, regardless whether it's a hard drive, SSD or an SD card, doesn't matter, it must have 64 gigs. And find a tutorial online where you can actually do your job. Having that said, everybody, once again, I'm sorry not for being on the image itself or in the video itself, but regardless of that, thank you for watching, and until maybe next time for an English video. Let me know if you enjoyed it, and let me know if you want to have more English videos being uploaded by me. And if not, well, who cares? Nevertheless, thank you for watching. Until next time. Goodbye.